Hey, I got this question from somebody within my private community about coming out of shutdown and welcoming the sympathetic flight-fight activation and worrying that she is actually reinforcing her stuck state of shutdown. So I'm going to delve into that. Hi, I am Justin Sunseri. I'm a therapist, a coach, and the creator of the Polyvagal Trauma Relief System. Welcome to Stuck Not Broken, where I teach you how to live with more calm, confidence, and connection without psychobabble or woo-woo. So typically, I like to release these every week. That has been a struggle for me really recently as I work on the first book, which is actually, it's done. And this is an author proof, says not for resale on it. I'm going to give you an update at the end of the episode about the progress of the book and the availability of it. But yeah, typically I like to release these every week. That's been a struggle. Tons going on. I'll tell you more about those at the end as well. Let's focus on the question here, and then I'll let you know where I'm at with everything else. In my community, I do these things called Daily Growth Hub, where every day I release a discussion point or something to practice feeling safety or self-compassion or just something like that, right? This particular week, we were talking about shutdown. I believe, it was a whole week devoted to shutdown. And the idea of shutdown being empty and then refilling from sympathetic came up. So the basic idea here is if you're in a dorsal vagal shutdown, it can feel very empty. It can feel like a void. It can feel very alone, dark. It just feels empty. Like you might feel disconnected from yourself, from reality. So that's kind of what I mean by that is it can be this empty feeling, your empty vessel. When you come out of shutdown, up the polyvagal ladder, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't listen to this. I'll link you to my polyvagal intro in the description. Listen to that or read through that. It's an easy intro to the polyvagal theory. Go there and then come back here. So as you come out of shutdown up the polyvagal ladder, you're going to go into your sympathetic state. As the sympathetic energy comes back into the system, it's going to fill you up. It's at least that could be the experience of welcoming or of that activation coming back into your body. As you go from a shutdown collapse to sympathetic, it can feel like you're full. You're full of energy. You're full of motivation, maybe playfulness, ideally. Work, or potential to create, to produce. There's this potential sensation of fullness or of filling up. So the person in my private community, she says or asks, do you mean empty and filling in relation to sympathetic energy? I mean, when we're in shutdown, we feel empty. As we climb the polyvagal ladder, as we self-regulate, that is, then the sympathetic activation comes back into the body and we are much more mobilized and capable of doing those things I listed, like play and creativity, mobilization, basically. She goes on to say, despite the recent focus on shutdown here, I'm still missing something, I think. If a nervous system has learned very early on to default to shutdown, and this is not a state we are choosing, it is a default when threat is detected. I want to rephrase this. We're not choosing shutdown consciously. No one's choosing that. Our nervous system's not choosing it either. It's a biological reaction. No choice is happening here on a conscious level or like biological, metaphorically, like we could say a choice, but it's not a choice. It's just a shift based on the needs of survival. So if we are raised in an environment where we cannot be safe, or connect to safe others, or those efforts are constantly rejected. And if we're in an environment that we can't run away from, and an environment where aggression is not going to work, then we will likely exist in a predominant shutdown state. So it's not a choice, it's just the way it is. So when threat is detected in life later on, we don't choose shutdown, we're already in shutdown. Okay, so it's not a choice to go into shutdown. Our body's not exactly choosing it either. We're already in shutdown. If that's if you're existing in a chronic state of shutdown. Now, if you are in a state where you're pretty well regulated and you have connections with safe others and your needs are taken care of or you're taking care of your own needs, then you might exist in a state where you have more safety. But if you get into a scenario where there's real danger, like you're actually being attacked or something like that, then you will go through that ladder sequence, flight, then fight, and then shutdown at the bottom. So yeah, you could enter shutdown that way, but that's for a system that's already self-regulated, okay? The person here is asking, I believe, is if you're raised and chronically in shutdown, well, then the answer, they're asking what happens when we neurostep danger later on. And the answer is, well, you're already in shutdown, and so it just reinforces the shutdown. She goes on to say, I'm thinking this conditioning needs to be resolved and not released in some way. And yeah, you're right. We don't release shutdown. We release flight fight activation, especially from, well, flight fight, but also from freeze. So when we're in shutdown, we don't release that. We don't discharge shutdown. Instead, that's probably not the right way to word it. Instead, the shutdown alleviates enough. That might be a way to say it. Where immobilization releases enough. No, I don't like that one either. Immobilization eases up enough or softens enough maybe now to where mobilization, sympathetic energy, can come back into the system, and then we become more mobilized, and then we can use that activation. So no, we don't release, I wouldn't phrase it that way. We don't release immobilization from shutdown. We climb out of immobilization. We return to mobilization. So releasing is not, that doesn't fit for me. If we're in freeze is a combination of shutdown plus flight fight. So freeze literally, well, not literally because it's not ice, it's not frozen. But freeze locks in the immobilization of shutdown locks in the mobilization of flight fight. So we can release the flight fight activation, but first the freeze, the immobilization of shutdown has to kind of thaw. That has to come off. Once that comes off, then the flight fight activation is more accessible and can be used for healthy mobilization. The conditioning of being shut down needs to be resolved so the other states and options are available again, yeah, and can be gone to when more appropriate or stand a chance of success, yeah. In parentheses, she puts when we can actually fight or flee / stand up for ourselves or walk away. Yeah, you have to come out of shutdown in order to access the potential of flight fight, and that might be utilizing that activation to escape an actually dangerous situation, or standing up for yourself and speaking from empowerment. Shutdown doesn't really lend itself very well to those whatsoever. And she says, I think I'm worrying that allowing shutdown feels like I could be reinforcing that state as my go-to. It's a valid concern. That is a very valid concern. And I think that a lot of people would probably assume that as well. But no, that's not going to happen if you are allowing shutdown along with your safety state. If you exist in a predominant shutdown state right now and you attempt to go allow it, you might get sucked further into it. You might lock yourself in a dark room and sleep. That's not the kind of allowing that I'm talking about when I say to allow your state, or to allow the emotions of your state maybe. When I say allow, it's more from being grounded in the safety state. If you're grounded in your safety state, then you can allow the shutdown to be there. So think of it as dysregulated shutdown versus regulated shutdown. If you're in a safety state, then you'll have regulated shutdown, and it'll be felt as, or it'll be a mixed state of stillness. Shutdown plus safety equals stillness. Stillness is the ability to be immobile and maybe alone, like in solitude, but you're okay with it. You're safe. You're not, getting sucked into this void of depression and disconnection, isolation. So regulated shutdown means safety plus shutdown. Safety plus shutdown equals stillness. And when you come out of shutdown, that actually might be the first thing that you experience is stillness. When we come out of shutdown, we come up into our fight activation, fight, flight, but fight is typically the first stop. But even before that, what you might notice, especially through my coursework that I've created, is that you'll build up your safety capacity, your safety state, your connections to yourself, to others in the present moment. So if you're in a shutdown state and you're also building up your safety state, you'll likely experience the combination, the mixed state of stillness. That's not fight, that's stillness. So that's what we want. And when I say allow shutdown, that's what I mean is we want to allow it from safety. Because if you can do it from safety, if you can be in safety and then allow shutdown, you'll be in stillness. And from stillness, you can be self-reflective. You can have curiosity. You can have self-compassion. It's way different than quote unquote allowing a dysregulated shutdown. That's not what I mean at all. So if you allowed or got pulled into a dysregulated shutdown, would that reinforce it? Yeah, it totally would. Absolutely. She says, I'm therefore struggling with when it would be appropriate to accept and allow my shutdown, and when some movement intended to bring sympathetic energy in would be the way to go. So from shutdown to sympathetic, it's more likely to be a lack of movement. I mean, you can move, do whatever you want, but when you're in shutdown needs immobilization. Shutdown needs reduced stimulation. So if you can arrange your environment, and this is like one of the first lessons in building safety anchors, one of my courses, if you can alter your environment to provide you with more cues of safety, both passive and active, if you can provide yourself with cues of safety that speak to your safety state while you're in shutdown, so that would probably be reduced stimulation, that would probably be lower, lighting, that might be softer music or quiet, or a certain type of music like heavy metal, hip hop probably won't be the places to go to for that. So if you can allow immobilization from safety, then the sympathetic system might come back on, and self-regulation might allow the system. Oh my gosh, this self-regulation might help the sympathetic system to come back online. So from shutdown, then into the flight fight sympathetic, and then mobility would become more of an option. So mobility from shutdown, if you're going to do that, might be very small movements, not much at all. It might be just reorienting to the environment using your eyes. It might just be, actually someone in the community shared just today about being on a train, and they used the prompt from today, the Daily Growth Hub prompt was to use your senses to connect to the environment. And they shared how they closed their eyes, and they had mentioned being in shutdown. So they actually closed their eyes and instead focused on the sensory experience of the fabric, I believe it was, of the chair, and then the metal of the chair that they were sitting on. So they reduced their stimulation, they closed their eyes, and they focused on one sensory aspect. And then from there, then they felt the need or the readiness to open their eyes and look outside, and they noticed I think they said the skyline or the line of the building top, something like that. But they felt more connected and appreciative and realized, I've never seen this. I've never experienced this, even though I've been on this train every day. So that's a really small, wonderful example of allowing shutdown and then slowly starting to come out of it and having more of an expansive awareness and connecting further to the environment using another sense, which was eyesight. If you keep practicing in that, at some point the next day or the day after, I don't know, but you might feel like, breathing more into your chest. You might feel more energy coming in your system. You might feel like I'm ready to get up and just start walking as part of a daily routine, or, typically it can look like that. So I'll leave it at that. From shutdown into mobilization. We don't start at shutdown and then mobilize, and then the sympathetic activity comes in. Instead, the sympathetic activity starts to come in a bit at a time, and or we can expand from there and connect to the environment differently, start being more mobile. Okay, she wraps it up to say, back to the original question, I worry about sinking into that despair and reinforcing a nervous system imprint that isn't serving me. My thoughts are a bit confused around this area. So hopefully this clears it up. I think I answered this question. It's a valid concern, especially from shutdown. We're going to assume that we're going to fail. We're going to assume things are not going to go well, and that we're just going to be stuck in this state forever, and that our efforts will just fail, and then it's going to redouble the amount of stuckness that we have, and reinforce the imprint. But no, as long as you're prioritizing safety and then mindfully allowing your shutdown state, then no, it doesn't have to be the case whatsoever. That actually, it would be the start of actual self-regulation. That would be combining safety plus shutdown and existing in stillness. That example in the train is probably a really good example of stillness. You're in your safety state, but immobile. You're connected to the environment. You're connected to your present moment sensory experience. And there's a feeling of expansiveness and novelty. That's a pretty good example of stillness. And that could easily begin to build into more mobility coming back into the system or flight fight. So that's my answer to that. I hope that helped you out. Let me share a little bit of kind of about where I'm at with the book and just my efforts, so you know kind of what's coming up for me in the near future. So I love doing the podcast. This isn't stopping, but it's getting harder and harder to do this every week. I feel like I'm on a bi-weekly schedule now, and I don't like that. I like putting something out every week for you. But that's kind of where I'm at. And if I'm showing up less, that's why. Because I have a lot going on. One of those things that I have going on is the book. Here's the cover with the not for resale banner across the middle of it. Stuck Not Broken, book 1. This is done. It is done. I have uploaded the final manuscript to Amazon with the corrections I needed. I figured out the issue, or the internet helped me figure out the issue. I'm waiting for the final author proof to come in tomorrow. It should be 100% ready. Once I know it's 100% ready, I will put it out for sale. I also have it available. I should have it the same day on Amazon Kindle, Apple Books, and PDF. So you can choose, which book you want to buy, which is softcover, Kindle, Apple Books, PDF, or you can get it as part of my Total Access membership. If you're a member, it'll be included, the PDF, not the book, not the print book, but the PDF will be included for my Total Access members to have as a reference point. So there's that. That's the update on the book. We are like super close to this thing being available. Make sure you're on my email list, and I'll let you know when that's officially out. The second thing is for my Total Access members, the first book and the other two will be available for you as a PDF once they are released. The third thing is also for the Total Access. So I've been wanting to create a cohort or a program, some sort of structured non-course, kind of like a webinar, but not a webinar. So I kind of want this course webinar combo. I'm not sure what you'd call that. I'm calling it a cohort, but I think it'll be, I don't know, let's call it a cohort. So that's coming together, and actually coming together pretty rapidly in between waiting on the book revisions to come in. It's called Shutdown to Stillness, and perfectly aligns with the question here. The idea in this cohort is for people who are in shutdown to start making the steps to come out of shutdown in a non-traumatizing way, just like my coursework. But the coursework focuses on all stuck defensive states, including shutdown, but it's very detailed information that applies to all the states. And in this cohort, Shutdown to Stillness, we're going to focus on shutdown and then incorporating more safety into your life and resulting in more stillness. Okay, so it's called Shutdown to Stillness, More Inner Peace in 4 weeks. This would be a 4-week cohort that's available to anyone in my Stuck Not Broken Total Access membership. If you don't want to be part of the membership, I'll have a fee you can pay to be a part of the cohort. But I highly recommend you be a part of the membership because it's going to cost less. And because there's tons of other stuff that I have available for you in the membership. So the idea here is, like, I know other programs and coaches, they charge hundreds for people to take these things, and they have every right to, and it's hopefully worth it. And I think mine is too. But I have the Stuck Not Broken Total Access membership, and I want to take that literally. So if you're paying for Total Access, I think you should get Total Access. And so I'm not going to cut this off from people within Total Access. In the future, I might have, this won't be limited to like 6 people though. That's how I was originally envisioning it, but now it's going to be, anyone within Total Access can come. In the future, I might have something that is more private, that's shutdown stillness for a smaller group of people. But for now, it's if you're in total access, you can join. If you're not in total access, you can pay for the cohort once it's out, or join total access and be a part of that, plus my courses, plus the private community, plus open Q&As. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Book's coming out super soon. Shutdown to Stillness is being worked on, developing really rapidly, and that's it. I got a lot on my plate, plus trying to build up everything else that I'm doing. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you giving me some of your time, and I really hope this has been a helpful resource for you. Other than that, bye.
This podcast is not therapy, not intended to be therapy or be a replacement for therapy. Nothing in this creates or indicates a therapeutic relationship. Please consult with your therapist or seek for one in your area if you are experiencing mental health symptoms. Nothing in this podcast should be construed to be specific life advice. It is for educational and entertainment purposes only. More resources are available in the description of this episode and in the footer of justinlmft.com.